What's up, internet? We've all seen Samyang lenses before, but there are some key changes you have to know about this one, the Samyang 24mm f1.8. You know, the MTFs shocked me and showed that the Samyang is slightly sharper than the GM. However, the GM should have superior bokeh, and we'll find out if the Samyang keeps up right now. If you're new here, be sure to give the video a like. The Sony algorithm is paying attention. So I've been using the Samyang 24mm f1.8 for a while, and it's my favorite Samyang lens ever because it's completely different compared to other Samyang lenses. The added function, the feel, and the look is fantastic. If you haven't used 24mm as a normal lens, you should definitely give it a try sometimes. 35 and 50 are more conventional lenses due to the working distance. With 24, you really need to be right up close and embrace the perspective distortion. Learn to love the quirks. Just like my wife eating durian. On paper, the Samyang has everything to be a runaway success. Small, fast, and affordable. So let's talk about the design of the lens. Flimsy hood? Absolutely not. Samyang has updated their build quality with this lens. The hood is solid, stiff like Tamron and Sigma lenses. The body gets this updated treatment as well. No more slippery plastic. Instead, you have a plastic body that's much more like composite lenses. If I simply covered up the chrome and red accents, the body would have a much more pleasing look to it. And I think Samyang knows this, hence the 12mm f2 APS-C lens is trending this way. The lens has a rubberized custom button that gives excellent feedback, although it's a bit noisy. The click is really loud. Similarly, the Mode 1, Mode 2 switch takes a bit of effort, which prevents accidental switching. However, it is loud. The focus ring has changed over the years. On my older Samyang lenses, the ring feels a little loose and resistance doesn't feel natural. On this new lens, and even on the 35mm, the focus ring feels closer to a manual focus lens packed with grease. It offers great feedback even if using a linear STM system. It tricks you into thinking that the manual focus system is a conventional older lens, which is a good thing. I would have loved it if the ring was rubberized rather than plastic. The lens offers moisture and dust resistance, protecting from light dust, rain, and snow with a rubber gasket and 4 internal spots. Weight is about 220 grams, similar to the Sony 28 and Samyang 35 f1.8, a highly travel-friendly weight I think, and length is reasonable, about 72mm or just under 3 inches. Among the Samyang Tiny series, it is one of the larger lenses, and there may be a reason for this. More on that later. The barrel is 65mm at its widest and uses 58mm front filter threads, common with the 18, 35, and 75 in case you want to simplify your kit by buying more lenses. How does that work exactly? The lens has an Astro Focus mode where it's advertised to store infinity focus for your lens. However, this can be repurposed for zone shooting for street photographers. There are 3 steps on how to enable this mode. First, make sure your camera is off and lens attached. Hold the focus hold button and turn on the camera. The LED will flash red once and change to green. This will cause your camera to go into manual focus mode. This is the second step. Once you adjust the focus, the LED turns red. Adjust it to your desired focus. Press and hold the custom button for 3 seconds and the LED should turn green. The green light indicator will let you know that you have acquired focus and it's stored into your memory. I find that works quite well. Manually focus until the light turns green, or click the button once and it'll jump to the zoom position. Pretty simple. To use autofocus again, turn off the camera and turn on again without holding any buttons. The light should turn green briefly, then shut off. The cool thing about using this feature is that if you're using an older camera that doesn't have AF in MF mode, you can use this mechanism to rack focus and it'll follow the transition speed for video, giving a smooth focus pull. Downside is that the click can be loud and will be picked up by your audio. And since we're on the subject of autofocus, I find the speed of focus acquisition in line with other Samyang lenses, about budget Sony level. The most positive, lesser talked about focus is the assuredness when the lens acquires. Less hunting from my experience. When it comes to moderate action with children, the lens does a decent job. Hit rate will be lower than premium Sony lenses. Low light autofocus is very good. This sample I compared it to the 24GM with shared settings, 1/50th, f1.8 ISO 6400. The room is very dark and performance is similar to the GM. What I like about the AF is that it stays locked and there is no noticeable amount of jittery footage. Your subject lock is consistent and confident, and a deviation from my experiences with Samyang lenses. I have an upcoming review showing this issue on the 85. Enough with the AF, I want to go back to something I alluded previously, the size of this lens being bigger than previous tiny series lenses. It's my theory that lenses need to be larger to control focus breathing, and that may be the reasoning why the Samyang is slightly larger than it needs to be. I think this is deliberate by design. What do you think? Did you notice it at first? There is a very small amount, making this lens an excellent choice for video. Samyang's noticeable growth in size did not go unnoticed, and the change results in a high quality look. The company is paying attention, and so should you. Next up, let's take a look at the sharpness. Before I had this lens, I looked over the MTF and it showed that this lens has comparable contrast and resolution to the GM, which is a high level lens. So we'll have to look at the test charts side by side, and after we'll go for images outside. Wide open, both lenses are identical in the center and extremely good moving to the mid frame. The GM has a slight advantage, a hair sharper. However, at the edge, the Samyang is a hair better with less fine chromatic aberration. Moving to the far corner, the Samyang pulls ahead with noticeably more contrast and comparable resolution. At f2, both lenses are extremely sharp from the corner to corner. The GM has a residual fine CA at the corners. At f2.8, most of the frame is maxed out in contrast and resolution. The Samyang improves more than the GM in the far corners, sharper by a hair. At f4, the Samyang is sharp all over the frame, and about as sharp as it gets. The GM lags a little on the far corners, and the fine chromatic aberration still exists. At f5.6, both lenses are maxed out, hard to decipher any differences. f8 is the same story as 5.6. Both lenses are more alike than different. Hard to tell one from the other. As for distortion, there's a mild amount of barrel for the Samyang, and in my opinion, not enough to affect sharpness when corrected. Test charts are one thing. How does it look in real life photos at typical shooting distances? Well, the performance mimics the test charts for the most part. Images are nice and crisp. This is an impressive lens. The most impressive Samyang I've ever used. And I've used and owned the 18-24, a pair of 35s, 50 and 85 AF versions. Not to mention a few of their manual focus versions back during the DSLR era, where the sharpness lags is close focus. It can capture an object 6 inches wide, however outside of the center the fall off in sharpness is dramatic, downright blurry even at web viewing distances. The lens is definitely not optimized for close-up photography. Outside of this factor, the Samyang 24mm f1.8 definitely keeps up with the GM in terms of sharpness and arguably exceeds it. But what about bokeh? What good is sharpness if the bokeh and character are horrible like the Kardashians? Let's go right ahead and do a side-by-side of the GM to get it out of the way. Close distances about 1 meter away, the differences are substantial. The Samyang has a somewhat structured look where the GM melts everything outside of its focus plane. A much cleaner look. It has more blur and the quality of blur is high. Medium distances about 2 meters away, things change up a lot. From these samples, I had a hard time telling them apart. They're remarkably similar. Wide lenses and distance don't play well. Depth of field basics. I'm still shocked to see it. Or in this case, not see the differences. It's not apparent to me other than the Samyang warm colors. At this distance, the Samyang bokeh is soft and smooth everywhere. There's a minor amount of donuts on the edges, and I think performance is right up there with the GM. When it comes to chromatic aberration, there was not much I could find with conventional tests. However, in my samples, I did spot a small amount. The effect is minor and I think most folks can live with this. LoCA, aka Bokeh CA is another story. Wide open f1.8, there is a moderate amount as seen here, and it gradually goes away by f4. Compared to the GM, the performance is in line with that lens. Both have a modest to high amount of Bokeh CA. Let's check out flaring. From what I can see, big improvement over previous 24 f2.8 version. Does not have the dramatic whiteout from my testing. The image maintains contrast and not affected by bright light sources. And check out the Sunstars. Nice crispy points and dramatic when stopped down. Very happy with how this lens performs in this scenario. Vlogger usability is good and the size and weight makes a big difference. It's small enough that you can extend and hold for longer amounts of time. The GM is 200 grams more and feels much heavier when your arm is extended. I think it looks great, a very nice look with pleasing background separation and a lot of background context. Coma performance. This lens was advertised as an astro lens after all. So what I did was try to mimic Milky Way settings. There's the moon out unfortunately, so I can't do actual Milky Way shots. So here are my settings, f1.8 and 8-second long shutter. You can see that the stars are remarkably clean. No bats involved. Nice pointy dots, and that's all an astro lens is supposed to do. You've got a winner on your hands. For astro, this will be a top-notch performer. So what do you think about this lens? Personally, I think Samyang did an amazing job, and this will be a fantastic travel lens. And for those who like the 24mm look, this focal length has a decent amount of lenses to choose from. And the Sony and Samyang are top of the heap when it comes to optics. And I hope this review helps you decide which one is for you. The price of $499 is higher than typical Samyang lenses, but fair for what it provides. Super sharp, pleasing bokeh, and great for low light. Whether you're using this lens for astro, travel, or living life, you won't be disappointed. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, sub, share. See you in the next one.